If you have a channel that's getting little to no views at all, it's probably not just because you're getting unlucky. You could be shadow banned, it could be that your videos are not original enough, and on the flip side, it can even be that your videos are too original. I know that sounds kinda crazy, but this has actually been proven. And I have also experienced it myself, because over the past 5 years, I've had a lot of different channels, and a lot of them were just doomed to fail from the beginning, simply because I was lacking the right knowledge. But once I finally understood everything that I was doing wrong, I finally got a channel monetized and have had a few long form videos do decently well. Nothing crazy at all, but this is massive when you're used to getting no views. So in this video, I want to explain every mistake that could be the reason you're not getting any views on YouTube. The first thing I want to talk about relates to how much YouTube trusts your account. If you get literally no or almost no views or impressions at all, there's a pretty high likelihood that YouTube just thinks you're a bot. This happens whenever you create a brand new email, sign up to YouTube and immediately upload. YouTube has no reason to trust a brand new account, and so to avoid getting immediately treated as a bot, you should use an aged account and upload from that instead. If you don't have an aged account, you should warm up your account before you upload. Watch content and engage with it by liking videos and leaving comments on videos you actually watch. It can take a few months before YouTube actually starts treating you as a real person, so it really is a lot better to just use an aged account. You can, however, speed up this process pretty significantly by turning on the third setting under feature eligibility, because this increases your trust score pretty significantly. You actually should do this even if you do have an aged account, because it just helps YouTube understand that you are a real person. Also, as a side note, it is completely normal to not get any views on a new channel before at least 3 days after you upload, even if YouTube knows you're a real person. As you can see here, this video got no views until the 3rd day. This is because YouTube needs some time to analyze your content to figure out who to recommend the video to, so don't panic about not getting views or impression if your first video is less than 3 days old. The next thing I want to talk about might be the most controversial one, because it relates to AI usage in videos and how overusing it can be a real risk for your channel. And if you're making content with the help of AI and not getting any views, this could be why. Because recently YouTube has been cracking down a lot harder on what they call AI slop. In a recent blog post from the CEO of YouTube, he stated the following: "The rise of AI has raised concerns about low quality content, aka AI slop. To reduce the spread of low quality AI content, we are actively building on our established systems that have been very successful in combating spam and clickbait and reducing the spread of low quality repetitive content." A very obvious example of AI slop would be prompting ChatGPT for a complete script and slapping an AI voiceover on top of that. It just doesn't work anymore. Even if you do have your own original visuals, like drawings or animations or whatever, that's not always enough. There are actually several big channels that have been demonetized for this recently, despite clearly having human effort going into parts of their videos. And YouTube is getting a lot more aggressive at detecting this stuff, because they're relying a lot on Gemini to understand the entire context of a video. And if it detects low effort AI in your videos, the algorithm is not going to pick it up. And even if it does for some reason, you could run into some real monetization issues down the road. So it's definitely something you should be careful with. And just to be clear here, I'm not saying you need to avoid AI entirely. As YouTube themselves said, it's a tool that you can use. Using it to refine your phrasing or brainstorm ideas or whatever can be totally fine. I know some people are very against everything that has to do with AI, but I'm not really here to talk about ethics. I'm simply here to tell you what works and what doesn't work on YouTube. And while overusing AI definitely doesn't work anymore, using it as a tool can still be helpful, assuming you're using it in the right way. Now that we've talked about AI, let's talk about original content in general. I want to start out by directly quoting YouTube's own community guidelines. If you're making money on YouTube, your content should be original and authentic. This means that we expect your content to be your original creation. If you borrow content from someone else, you need to change it significantly to make it your own. 2. Not be mass-produced or repetitive. It should be made for the enjoyment or education of viewers rather than the sole purpose of getting views. So YouTube is pretty clear. You need originality in your videos. But this does not mean that everything about your videos have to be original. In fact, if your videos are too original, you could get punished for that too. What I mean by that is that YouTube needs to understand who it should push your videos to. When making a video, you need to consider who your audience is. Think about what other channels your audience is watching. If you can't answer that, you are probably doing something wrong. Your content, your title, and your thumbnails should be adjacent enough to other channels that you researched so that the audience those channels are getting also becomes your audience. If you make a video with a title and thumbnail that isn't really adjacent to anything else on YouTube, it will be much harder for YouTube to understand what audience to push the video to. You should be using a proven concept for your thumbnails and video ideas. And then you can just add your own thoughts and content in the video itself. But the framing of the video should not be too original, because that could make it hard for your video to get into the algorithm at all. This next part should go without saying, but doing any type of fake engagement, like sub for sub, buying viewers, or something similar, will completely destroy your channel. YouTube detects it easily, and it will ruin your trust score completely. This actually kind of extends to how you promote your content, because you really should not advertise your own channel anywhere, unless you have a very specific targeted niche audience that you know will like your videos. Sharing your videos on platforms like Reddit is almost always a bad idea. Most people won't watch your videos all the way through, and it will destroy your retention rate. And even if they do watch, the chances that they actually care are not that high. But since they clicked it, they might see your next video on their homepage, but they won't actually care enough to click it, which means it will also make your click-through rate a lot worse. That's why it's almost always just a net loss to advertise your own content. You need to trust the algorithm here, even if it is very annoying to have to do so. But that is the only way you are ever gonna get discovered. Arguably the most important thing for your channel is picking a niche that works for you. And you should spend a significant amount of time doing research to figure out what works on YouTube to come up with a good idea. A lot of the time it makes sense to pick a niche of content you like to watch yourself anyway, because then you already understand why that content form is appealing. However, you do also need to realize that not all niches are equal. Some of them are much more demanding to make content for, and if there's a lot of competition in that specific niche, it can be very hard to get into the algorithm. This is not to say you can't pick a popular niche and make content for it. You definitely can. As an example, Roblox has been huge for years, and there are a crazy amount of Roblox YouTubers right now. But because Roblox is so big, you cannot say that Roblox itself is a niche, because it's not. To find a niche, you would have to pick a niche within Roblox. As an example, this channel focuses on rare anomalies or occurrences within Roblox. And this is a good example of picking a game with a huge viewer base and then finding a niche within that game to focus on. If you're just doing random Roblox gameplay content, you're competing with so many other channels and your chances of getting into the algorithm is significantly lower. Next, let's talk about titles, thumbnails, and click-through rates. Your title and thumbnails are obviously the only thing that determines whether someone clicks your video or not, and that is why I recommend thinking up a title and thumbnail before anything else. Whenever I come up with a title or thumbnail that's too vague or something that I probably wouldn't click on myself, I usually scrap the whole idea to try to figure out a new one instead. And if you have a video with a low click-through rate, it means that YouTube tried to push your content, but the thumbnail and title just weren't good enough. When it sees that kind of click rate, it will stop recommending your video altogether. It's also important that your title and thumbnail represents the actual content. Clickbait only works if your content actually talks about whatever your title and thumbnail were representing, because otherwise it will just lead to bad retention rates, and then YouTube will not push your video to the algorithm more either. So you should really try to look at other successful creators in your niche and look at their titles and thumbnails to let them inspire you. There is no shame in stealing a concept as long as the actual video you're making is different. Now, if you do have a good click-through rate, but your video still isn't getting recommended to more people, it's usually because your retention is too low. If people leave 30 seconds into the video, that's pretty bad for the algorithm. It could also be that you have low engagement, like likes or comments and so on. And the algorithm really does love engagement. So if it doesn't get any of that, it might just stop recommending the video too. The best thing you can do here is to really focus on creating a good hook for your video. And the hook should make sense with your title and thumbnail. Preferably the hook should immediately create some type of curiosity about what's gonna happen in the rest of the video. People should want to stay to figure that out. And so creating a good hook for the video is one of the things I try to spend the longest on. I often write and rewrite that part many times until I'm satisfied with what I got. The best way to find inspiration for good hooks is to just study bigger creators in the niche you want to make content for. Write down exactly why you felt like you needed to keep watching the video, and then try to replicate that curiosity in your own videos. Now, to wrap up here, there are a lot of reasons your videos might not be getting views, and it's rarely just one of these things. A lot of the time, it's many of these things combined, and you just have to find a way to fix it. YouTube is not easy. It requires a lot of hard work, almost regardless of what niche you get into. And there are no real shortcuts. But a lot of it simply comes down to knowledge. Learn as much as you can about the algorithm, and if you keep applying everything you learn, eventually you will make it on YouTube. I truly do believe that almost everyone can find some sort of success on YouTube as long as they find a niche that they belong in. I myself try to make content just like this video to try and help and inspire other creators to grow. And if that's something you want to see more of, please consider subscribing. And I'll see you in the next one.